Everybody, thanks for watching. So now one of the things I want to point out is we are past September 23rd. So all these people who shouted out that the world was going to end September 23rd, come on. Same religious bullshit that I keep proving wrong. There are a bunch of videos on YouTube claiming that the world was going to end September 23rd, 2017. Same thing they said last year. They keep pointing out the same, doomsday, end times date. The shit keep passing us by because you guys have no idea what you're talking about and what's really going on. Just want to point that out real quick. But the question again, how is it any Hebrews left after all of the damning evidence that's been put out there? This just shows you, one, that people don't read. They don't watch entire videos. People are going to believe what they want to believe. People have too much emotion attached into these religions, and they don't want to have their feelings hurt, so they stay away from the truth and the facts. The questions that people give me that are legitimate questions, I answer about what I talk about. So when people say something against what I taught about the whole Hebrew Israelite doctrine, quick, fast, I can answer the question and give you proof and fact, give you source. This is something you will not get from Hebrews or Christians, as in regards to their doctrine and what they talk about and teach, because they don't have any. It don't exist. I keep getting people say, what about Noah's Ark? What about the chariots they found, in the Red Sea? And again, people who don't do no research, they hear something, they see something on Facebook or whatever social media site, and they believe it outright without doing any kind of reading or investigation. Again, there was no Noah's Ark found. It was proven a fraud by people who perpetrated the fraud, who came forward and said it was a fraud. We don't see the ark to this day, dude. We don't hear nothing about it. Where are the pictures of the entire ark or the site where they supposedly found the ark? Can we get a wide shot of that site? Show me what you found. Nothing. Also, the so-called chariots they found in the Red Sea. Another Snopes lie, bullshit. Proven to be bullshit. If you did actual research, you would have found that out, that it hasn't happened. Nobody found chariots belonging to the Egyptians in the Red Sea. Come on, wake up. It's the same bullshit. So again, if you're not going to do the research, period, there's no reason for you to debate anything. There's no reason for you to come at anybody who has done the research and try to speak against what they're talking about based on what you heard, based on what you think, because you can't back it up. So people, as I said, they subscribe to my channel just to give a thumbs down to every single video I post. Most of these are Hebrews and Christians, of course. They leave comments, I guess to make themselves feel better, but none of the comments are giving you any kind of facts or disproving my videos in any kind of way. Some people leave questions, which I answer. Some people who haven't watched the video to know that their question was answered in the video, I just ignore those questions. But it's the same stuff over and over again. People don't want to listen to the facts. They don't want to watch a video. They don't want to read a book to know the truth. So we get into this thing again. And I said I'm going to stay pounding the Bible, and especially pounding the Hebrew Israelite doctrine, which I have put in a body bag on numerous occasions, because you still have new people, excuse me, new people falling for the doctrine, new people who are, I'm not going to say new to YouTube, but are, new to the doctrine and coming in and going online and trying to look for information. I have old videos up. I want to keep as much videos up about this topic as I can to get people to see what the truth is. If you go through my videos, you will see the videos I have about the Hebrew Israelite doctrine. But let's just go to what people believe in general about this doctrine. So again, the Hebrews are right. They are right in the fact that we are the Jews that the Bible is talking about. As I said, this is something I will not debate. It's the truth. It's talking about black people. There's no way around that. The problem is you have to realize that it is talking about black people on purpose. And it's not talking about black people as far as something that is 100%, known, that is 100%, expressed, of course, in the Bible. It doesn't say specifically it's talking about us, but when you listen to what it's saying, It only pertains to one group of people on this planet, and that is us. This is what they are right about. Just because they are right about this fact that is talking about black people does not make the entire doctrine true and correct. That's bullshit. You need to understand why it's talking about black people and how and what happened for that to be in the Bible as far as Deuteronomy 28. So now, black people, please do not take my tone as condescending or me trying to one-up you or to prove I know more to you or anything like that. It's a little bit more frustration. I want you to know the truth. I want to help you out. I want you to get the answers that you're looking for and not just ignore what you feel uncomfortable about or what goes against your programming. I want you to know the truth. Plain and simple. That's why I do what I do. Because this lie has hindered us for too long. How many more years we're going to sit around and blame everything on this book and this devil and the Bible and all this stuff that we're supposed to be getting and this prophecies and all this bullshit that these people have put into this book? Hundreds of years we have prayed to this book. Nothing has changed for us. And of course, justifying that by saying we are cursed fits. It's the best logic that you could put in there. Oh, we're cursed. That makes sense. That's why we ain't getting no blessings, but it doesn't make sense when you understand the doctrine and the history behind the doctrine. So again, yes, it's talking about black people, but why? First of all, again, the Hebrews go back to the King James Version. Now, don't get me wrong. You have other Hebrews that go back to just the Tanakh. They just stick with the Torah itself, and they don't mess with the New Testament, which also, is a problem when you know about the real history. So when you read in the King James Version, Deuteronomy 28, everything is talking about with slavery and everything, all of that stuff, yoke of iron and everything, all that pertains to black people who were enslaved in America. Of course, we can see that clearly. The thing again is, when you do the research, we're talking about the King James Version that was written between 1604 and 1611. A lot of people are hung up on King James and the whole Hebrew Israelite community because they say he was a black dude. And he basically put this stuff in the Bible to basically, he was a Hebrew, he was an Israelite. He put this stuff in there to show us the truth about who we are. And that's not true. So again, 1604 to 1611, slavery was already in full swing. We were already enslaved in many different countries. So of course, he knew about the yoke of iron. He knew about slavery and everything we was going through, because we was going through it during that time when you had this man rewriting the Bible. You cannot go back and look at the older Deuteronomies and see the same passages, the same words in that book. I've proven this with Deuteronomy 28:68. As it stands today, the oldest copy, the oldest complete copy of the Old Testament in Hebrew is the Leningrad Codex. The Leningrad Codex is the oldest complete Old Testament in Hebrew. Now, of course, the Dead Sea Scrolls is older than the Leningrad Codex. It's much older than the Leningrad Codex, but the Dead Sea Scrolls is not complete. The Dead Sea Scrolls is in a lot of pieces. Now, the Aleppo Codex used to be the oldest complete Old Testament in Hebrew, and as a matter of fact, the Aleppo Codex is actually a better quality codex than the Leningrad Codex. But in 1947, it disappeared because the UN established a Jewish state in Palestine, and there was a rebellion that went on there. There was a riots that went on there, and it disappeared, and it didn't turn up until like 1957, 1958, and it was missing a lot of pages. Then the Leningrad Codex became the oldest complete Old Testament written in Hebrew. Now, as I said before, a lot of Hebrews do not reference those codices. They stick to the King James Version. And when I point these things out later on and show you how the King James Version is different, you can see where Deuteronomy is going to be different. When you go to Deuteronomy 28:68, it says, "And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships." Now, according to the Hebrews, Egypt is not actual Egypt. They are saying that Egypt, what they're referring to here when they speak of Egypt, is slavery, not Egypt itself, but slavery. Now it says,
And the Lord will bring thee into Egypt again with ships. By the way thereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. So they point to this verse as saying, see, the Bible warned us that if we disobey God, this is what happened to us, and we disobeyed God, and we went to America, and they point to America as being Egypt or being a place of slavery because, of course, slavery took place in America. But, of course, some people are going to say, well, America is not Egypt. Now, if you look at the back of a $1 bill, you will, of course, see the pyramid on the back of a dollar. We know that that's a part of a crest. That's a part of a crest, the American crest. You know, the other side is the eagle, and the other side is the Egyptian pyramid. But, of course, if you go to Kemet, everybody knows that they got those symbols from Kemet, from Egypt. And here's the originals, and here's what they stole. So we can clearly see that. So the Hebrews are saying that the Bible was trying to tell us that, you know, slavery took place in Egypt, where the Hebrews was enslaved. And of course, according to the Hebrew Israelite doctrine, they were also enslaved in America. So the Bible, that verse, Deuteronomy 28:68, was telling us that they would go to Egypt or into bondage or in slavery, and America is representing Egypt with that whole Egyptian pyramid. So we don't have a BC copy of Deuteronomy that's complete. The oldest complete copy of Deuteronomy that we have is in Codex Sinaiticus. And it doesn't say anything about no ships. It doesn't say anything about no going back to Egypt on ships or slaves or anything to that effect at all. So we're going to take a look at it and see what it actually says. So here is 68, Deuteronomy 28:68. We can see it here. Now, when we match it up with King James Version, I mean, you can eyeball it and see that it's completely different. Doesn't even start off with ka, and doesn't even say the same thing. So here it is. This is what it's saying in Sinaiticus. Completely different. Nothing about Egypt, nothing about ship or slavery or anything like that. So understand that we know, as I showed you in my last video, the scribes made mistakes. So if you try to copy and paste and do like a Google Translate, if a word, if a letter is off, you're not going to get the correct translation. You got to know or show it to somebody who actually knows, who can read Greek. Doesn't say anything about no ships, doesn't say anything about Egypt. Definite place there presents an enemy unto your child, and child run away and not be the inquiree. That's what it's saying. So when people read this thing, when they read the King James Version and they look at it, they are thinking that it says the exact same thing here in Codex Sinaiticus or in the Septuagint or in the original Bible, and it doesn't. It's not the same. They changed it, obviously.
We don't have a true full copy of the entire Deuteronomy. You know, it's in pieces. We have it in pieces with the Dead Sea Scrolls. We have it in fragments in the other books as well. We don't have a complete Deuteronomy 28, which is fitting when you understand what's in the King James Version and what it's talking about. How fitting is that? We don't have, you know, the full ancient version of Deuteronomy, but we have Deuteronomy 28:68, and we can prove that it's not saying the same way back then. So a lot of people want to compare it to the Dead Sea Scrolls that's supposed to be the same as the King James Version, which you can't say that because the Dead Sea Scrolls are in pieces. And we can't tell if it's the same as the King James Version in its entirety. Not to mention the fact that they haven't released all of the Dead Sea Scrolls. They haven't translated the whole thing and given us the true translation of what it means in English. They haven't released the whole scrolls. We don't know what all of it, what it says. So that's another thing we have to look at as suspect. A lot of people always run to the Dead Sea Scrolls, but we didn't get them until 1947. So the Dead Sea Scrolls, a lot of people want to believe says the same as the ancient manuscripts, and they don't, because we can't compare them. This is something that you have to take into account. You have to think about that. Now, a lot of you are getting caught up in what you are finding to be ancient from so-called Black Hebrew Israelites, which, of course, as I admitted to, as I said, yes, there were Black Hebrews. And you're going to go back and you're going to find a lot of ancient artifacts, a lot of things pertaining to Black Hebrews and to the Hebrew Israelites, but they will not go past the 4th century BCE. Anything that is found pertaining to a Hebrew past the 4th, or before I should say, the 4th century BCE is all suspect. When you pay attention, again, you got to read everything. You can't just look at something, what it says, and then accept it as fact. Look at it, read the entire article, or read the whole thing, and look at the textual, or look at the criticism, I should say. The part in the text where it says the criticism, and the fact that all scholars are not in agreement. All scientists, all researchers are not in agreement. When you find something that is 100% proven to be a fact, all scholars are usually in agreement. You shouldn't have Jewish Hebrew scholars in disagreement with a Hebrew artifact. So you have to understand that. And I understand that they're not the black Hebrews, but even still, you would think something that could possibly prove the validity of their people and their existence, they would jump on board. But you have to understand the fact that a lot of this stuff is not proven. And a lot of people want it to be 100% real before they give their full stamp of approval. So now, this is supposed to be the oldest example of Hebrew writing they found in Israel. Now, when you go to the National Geographic website where it talks about this piece of pottery that they found, now notice, this is the picture that you mostly see when you try to research this situation. They don't really give you a good look at the actual piece of pottery, not a really, good look. But when you go to the website, it says here, oldest Hebrew text is evidence for Bible stories, ? Now, the actual article goes on to say, the exact nature of the text, believed to be Hebrew, written in Proto-Canaanite script, that's not Hebrew, a type of early alphabet, has yet to be determined, but a number of words have already been translated, including judge, slave, and king. But the archaeologist's claims are disputed by an Israeli colleague who says there is not enough scientific information to reach a definitive conclusion. So here comes this Israeli, a Jew, who's saying, no, this is not Hebrew. We can't go ahead and just say it's Hebrew. There's not enough information to make a definitive claim. So you got a lot of people who was looking at this situation and just saying, it's not Hebrew. It's not Hebrew. Now they will lead you to believe. They always tell you it is believed to be. They will lead you to believe that it is Hebrew writing, but it's not. So why not just be honest and say this is not Hebrew? We should know definitively that it is. They have to make this connection and somehow put Hebrew in ancient Israel when that's not the case. We know the Egyptians was there. But when you go to the next page, it goes on to say, Tel Aviv University archaeologist Israel Finkelstein, who was not involved in the Elah excavations, agreed the site is very important, but has significant concerns with Garfinkel's interpretation of the findings. Immediately drawing ties between the site and the kingdom of Judah is a mistake, he said, and it might as well have been Philistine in origin. Also, due to the small number of samples, the carbon-14 dating of the site is also not as precise as it should be, he added. We need to wait for more samples. It's not enough to date the site based on 2 olive pits, he said, because that's what they use to carbon-14 date a piece of pottery. So how are you going to use olive pits when we're talking about Hebrew writing? Well, that's how they do. Now, he goes on to say, he also expresses doubts about the counterpiece of Garfinkel's finding, the text. I am prepared to predict that it will be very difficult to determine whether the text is in fact Hebrew. There will be evidence indicating various possibilities, he said. And the nature of its discovery, this piece of pottery, is also not unusual. There is a group of late Proto-Canaanite pottery shards from the same chronological phase that have been found in various sites on the coastal plains. None of them was discovered in Judea proper. So here comes this other archaeologist who's saying that they jumping the gun on this, and it's not Hebrew. So when we go back and we try to start finding ancient Hebrew writings, you're going to always only find a piece of pottery or a shard or something on like a wooden board, something that a 4-year-old could carve into a board. Now, if you get a piece of pottery, if you get something that's old, you can carve whatever you want into it and say it's Hebrew. You need to find stuff like we found with the Greeks. You need to find civilizations. You need to find like whole documentation. It's so unbelievable to me that these people supposed to have existed for so long.
They're supposed to have existed for so long and done so much, yet there is so little about them. The ancient Egyptians are so old. Look how much we have on them. Look how much we have on the Greeks. We got a lot of information. We have structures. We have bodies. We have everything. But you can't find nothing when it comes to these ancient Hebrews who's supposed to be ancient.
So these so-called artifacts, when you pay attention and you read the entire article, it will say it is believed, or that the date is not 100% agreed upon, or they're not in agreement on the whole thing. So, that's one thing.